In our next session, you'll discover how NATS utilizes enterprise architecture and roadmaps, leveraging HOPEX to enhance business planning, decision-making, and governance. To talk about this with us, we're happy to welcome Katie Myers. Katie's the head of EA at NATS and an experienced air traffic management professional with a strong background in aviation and aerospace. She leads complex change programs from conception to implementation, and today she talks to us about the strategic planning and enterprise architecture at NATS. Hey Katie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Leslie?
I'm great. So with this international conference, Katie's coming to us from the UK. So I don't know if you have a nice sunshine like we do in Paris, but
we do.
I'm going to leave the floor to you. Leave it to you then. Thank you, Katie.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And let me just share my screen. So I'm here to talk to you today about how our journey in terms of strategic planning at NATS and air traffic control and what that means. And just to start, I've got a little short video just to explain air traffic control to those of you that are not familiar with it, to help you understand what the business looks like and what our challenges are. So hopefully that's helped explain air traffic control to those of you not familiar with it. Continue. So to summarise, we've got a series of control centres that manage all of the UK airspace and some more as well. We provide air traffic control services at airport towers and remotely via digital towers as well. And we also provide aviation services to a whole host of industry stakeholders across the globe, internationally, in over 30 different countries. To give you an idea geographically of what that airspace is, you saw some of that in the video. We've got some domestic airspace, mainly over the UK, but also over the ocean, the North Atlantic as well. So that's kind of what it looks like in the context of Europe. So moving on to the case study then and what we've been doing in terms of architecture. So when I joined the team in Post a few years ago, what we had was a number of different bits of information across the organisation, not necessarily connected, not necessarily aligning with each other, understanding a corporate strategy, which a lot of us have, understanding our business planning, our operational and our technical strategies, and also a whole host of regulation as well. And what we sought out to do is sort of understand how all of that comes together and how we can pull that into a strategic planning approach through a roadmap. So what we've been developing is effectively understanding our business drivers, pulling that into a strategic planning function, which I'm going to dive into in a bit more detail in a second, which pulls together different levels of roadmaps and analysis. and using that to drive all of our investment, drive our change portfolio, drive our local investment as well, so that as that implements and as that improves our business performance, it goes full circle again, updating our business drivers. And this is a continuous process. This isn't a waterfall, one cycle through and you're done. All of these things are happening continuously all at the same time. So architecturally, what are we talking about when we're looking at that strategic planning function and roadmaps? Is effectively we've got a set of drivers which are imperatives, and they lead through to goals and benefits, which help outline what capabilities do we need, where are we going in the future. And then when we get through to delivery and trying to understand how that changes the organisation, we look at what is the design of the organisation today, split into what we refer to as building blocks. And for the delivery aspects, we look at, well, what are the changes to those building blocks? How are they grouped into projects, and how do they adhere to our architectural principles, and make sure we're making the right design choices as we go through that investment programme. So in terms of what it looks like, we have we export all of our data into a web page that's visible to all of our users across the whole company. So this isn't restricted to the architecture team. We have a knowledge base, which is fully interactive and gives all of those users, all of those stakeholders access to the information that's in the formal enterprise architecture that we pull out of Mega HOPEX. So we have this entry page here, and then we have a more user-friendly entry page that we can direct to our non-technical colleagues that contains words from the strategy that they recognise, so they understand how it fits with how they understand the strategy. It's not necessarily just an architectural language, but there are those two entryways into the content. And for the main roadmap for the organisation, this is what we refer to as our ATM roadmap, our air traffic management, which is our core business. And what we have there is there's a set of goals which are effectively capability driven for our operations colleagues, and underneath that our technical colleagues, underpinned by the regulation that we need to meet. And what we're introducing is effectively a strategic planning function to look around that, understand, are they individually good? What does the collective set mean? Is there any risk as a result of that? How are we progressing against that strategic plan? And understand what are the benefits we're going to get from that, and start to provide all of that ancillary data that helps us make the best decisions for that forward planning. There is more information on these goals, but I can't show you, but effectively we start to understand what's the impact going to be, what's the benefit to the customer, how does it fit with our business plan, etc. And we're able to pull all of that information up internally. You can see some of that information here. There's a sanitized version of it where we can start to show those heat maps. And so how does that translate into what's actually going to be delivered? So sitting underneath that overall high range capability roadmap, what we have is a series of technical domain roadmaps, and we're developing them for other areas of the organisation as well. So for this particular domain, which is information, we understand what is that comprised of, so which applications effectively, or which assets do we have inside that technical domain, but also what is the change plan to that over time. And we can start to show out those different cuts of the roadmaps based and with knowing that there is traceability all the way back up to that overall capability view. And we can also start to pull out the same metadata, the same analysis, understanding how are those individual changes contributing to either improving that overall service, how do they fit with the portfolio, but also really importantly, you can start to do really interesting analysis and visualizations in terms of dependencies with that data as well, and start to understand how complex is our change program and where are there dependencies that we maybe hadn't realised because they're 2 or 3 different steps removed, and using that to inform our risk management and the way we manage the projects, etc. So that's an overview of our case study and what we've been doing inside NATS with the help of Mega. I think the things we've learned from that are basically, we have a cross-functional team, so it's not just an architecture team that we have. We have operational users, we have finance people, We have some of the management team as well. We have a lot of the engineers involved, all working on a weekly basis to develop this capability so it's fit for purpose. The EA team is completely embedded in that cross-functional team, so they are peers with the rest of their expert colleagues across the business. It's not just an EA-led activity. It's possibly counterintuitive, but we've had to really learn to go slower, to go faster sometimes in order to get the real value, especially in our industry. We need to know that the data is accurate, so we can prototype and test certain things, but in going slower, we have achieved more over time. And having a senior sponsor as well that understands this, understands the value of EA and is able to translate that to the less technical areas of the business has been powerful. And finally, governance. There is no value in doing this if we're not embedding it properly and making sure that it's part of the working organisation and it's almost self-maintained going forwards, which is one of our principles, and that's something that's really, really benefited us as well. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Leslie, I think you're going to come in and see if there's any questions.
Yes, great. Katie, thank you so much for that presentation. And it's interesting to hear about the journey of the air traffic management roadmap. I've seen many interesting questions in the chat, so let's pick one. What's the next thing NATS will do to benefit the architecture?
So the next thing that we're looking at is effectively linking through not just those technical roadmaps, but also the operational roadmaps as well, to understand when we're doing our business planning, how does it impact our end customers? So for example, the military, we want to be able to pull out a subset of that information to present that to the customer and use it in those discussions so that they can see from the work that we're already doing, how does that benefit them directly?
Cool, that sounds promising. Thank you again, Katie. Yeah. And this has been great. Audience, Katie will stay available in the chat for your additional questions. And thanks again for being with us today, Katie.
Great. Thank you very much, Leslie. Bye.